Hey there, I'm Genny Perez. I'm a wife, mom, and small business owner. And although I love being all of those things, I'm at the point where I feel like there's something more to life outside of those roles. Does that sound like you? If you're in search of that extra magic, craving a dose of positivity, purpose, and real talk on being worthy, capable, and able, you're in the right place. Let's kick off this journey together, ignite that spark, radiate some positivity, and discover what makes your life and business truly shine. Ready to jump in? Let's spark some radiance together. Hello, and welcome back to the Sparking Radiance podcast. I'm Genny Perez. Thanks for joining me. Guys, this episode, I gotta jump right in. I have no time for fluff, and I will be 100% transparent and honest with you. It's rare that I get quiet time. Carving out to record these episodes has been a challenge. I've had to navigate some changes, send my kids off to the park, stay up late at night at times, but I'm doing this for the love and for the growth of myself and you, and I appreciate you being along here with the journey. But with that said, let's get started. All right, so here we are. I do have a story to share with you, and just bear with me because it just happened, and I'm kind of recollecting what happened this past weekend. So my daughter has started school, and she was invited to a birthday party, and it was a roller skating birthday party, mind you. She has never skated before in her life. And if you know anything about me or knew me as a child, you know that I was always in my skates. I had these purple and white pair of skates. I could still see them in my mind. And I love to live in those skates. For me, skating was fun. It was adventurous. It was freedom. It was, I can get there fast with my skates, right? And so I was so excited to take her to this birthday party. And she was a little bit nervous at first and hesitant to go because she didn't know what to expect. And I kind of worked her up and said, hey, it's going to be okay. Mom's going to be there with you. Don't worry. Okay. And I kind of gave her the example of when I was a kid of like, I love to be in skates and she should love him to be in skates. So we get to the party. I get total flashback from when I was a kid, at the skating rink. The music is going, the lights are twirling. We go, we get first pair of skates. And then because she's a newbie, what they'll do at these skating rinks, I wish they would have had these when I was little, but they create like these kind of like walkers in essence, but they're made at walkers with wheels, but they make them out of PVC pipes. Basically, it allows the kid to kind of hold on as to use for balance as they're trying to skate. So it prevents them from like falling forward. So we rent one of those, we get her skates, we put them on. And immediately, the moment she puts them on, she is so uncomfortable. Because it's a new feeling, right? I don't know, for those of you that have ever skated before, you do pretty much at that point don't have control of what's below you, right? There's a certain technique, but if you're not careful, you're going to roll either back or you're going to roll front, okay? Because it requires a lot of balance. So she puts them on and she's immediately like, I see the fear in her eyes. It's uncomfortable for her. And I kept pepping her up. It's okay. Mom's here for you. I'm going to help you. We're going to get through this, right? And as we head over to the skating rink and we try this out for the very first time, obviously after she says hi to her friend and happy birthday, gives the gifts and things like that, we're on the skating floor and we're there together. And she just had this look of uncomfortableness, of she didn't like the feeling of the skates. And she would try, and it was to the point where she was kind of like rolling, but she was trying to walk while she rolled. And, some of her friends or other kids would pass by and they'd be skating fine because they were experienced. And she was just getting frustrated because she expected she would just go in there, use that, that tool for a little bit and then be okay. But she just couldn't figure it out. We went around one time, and this is with me kind of holding on to her, holding on to the PVC pipe setup, and kind of helping her balance. She just couldn't figure it out. It was kind of like, think of like those cartoons, like those Scooby-Doo cartoons where they start running and they're running in place for a second before they actually take off. That's exactly how she looked when she was skating. She was just kind of running with the skates, but not going anywhere because she didn't understand that she had to let go, of trying to walk. It was more of a roll. And I would tell her, just keep your feet straight. Let me help you roll through. Okay. And so we went around that first time and we sat down right after, and she was upset. She was like, I want to go. I don't like this. I'm not having fun, Mom. And I knew at that moment, as a mom, I had to remind her that it was okay to feel frustrated. It was okay to feel frustrated because it was something new. It was something uncomfortable. It was something that she didn't want to do. Her immediate reaction was to retreat, to not be there. And as a mom, I told my daughter, I said, you know what? We are going to stay. And I said, if you choose not to skate, okay, I can respect that. But we're going to stay here because we're here for your friend. Okay. So you can put your shoes on and we'll stay here for the birthday party, but we're here for your friend. We're here to celebrate your friend. And we're not going to just leave just because we feel uncomfortable. And it took her a few moments to kind of cool off. And then I said, you know what? Let's go over to the skating rink and let's ask. Let's see if they have maybe something that can help us. So her and I well, actually at this point, she took the skates off, right? Because she was that upset, ready to go home. She took the skates off and I went and I asked him, I said, do you have any of those like training shoes that she can use? I see some other kids with like the training skates that have like a slower wheel. And so the gentleman was so kind to help us. And he was like, I don't think that they're going to fit on her shoe because it does go over the shoe and her size looks a little bit too big. And that was the case. We tried it and we couldn't fit that training skate. And then he's like, you know what? Let me look in the back. I think I have another option for her. So what he did was he went and he found her size. And they have these skates where it basically allows them to create the motion of the skating, but the wheels themselves don't necessarily roll as fast, or in some cases, I think they lock. And it's really just to help them get the concept of keeping the skates on, learning the balance and things like that. And so we gave those a try. We went out again to the floor. She still had her PVC pipe walker and this new skates that didn't really have movement at that point. She was just lugging the wheels along with her. But she tried it again. And she went through the motions of what it is to like to skate. She kind of put one step forward, then the next step, and then she realized I could do the next step. And again, she would see her friends pass by or other kids her age pass by and they were going fast. But at this point, she's like, okay, well, I'm keeping up. Then she gained a little bit momentum and she went a little bit faster. All of this with me by her side, okay, this second time around. And then we went to a third time. And then we got to a time when we went around where I said, you know what, can we try it without this? I'm sure they have a name for it, but I'm just going to call it this PVC pipe walker. Can we try it without? And she says, okay, Mom, let's try it. So we tried it without. And she went again. She went without that. And then it got to the point where she was comfortable. We went around a few more times. And finally, we had fun at the birthday party. She was happy. She was happy that we stayed. We got to sing happy birthday to her friend. And then at the very end, when we were about to leave, now granted, because the wheels don't roll themselves, she was exhausted, okay? Because she's basically lifting up the weights at this point because they really don't roll. It's just her walking with like these weights on her feet. But again, it's teaching her the balance. By the time we went around a few times, she was pretty much, and we sang happy birthday and things like that. She was ready to go. And she said, you know what, Mom? I want to go around one more time. And I said, okay, babe, go ahead. And I said, do you think that you can do it this time without Mama? And she's like, yeah, Mom, I'm going to give it a try. And she did. She went around the rink all by herself for the first time. And as a mother, I was so proud. I was so proud. And I had to come and share with you guys because from my very own daughter, I learned so much from that experience. My very own daughter was teaching me, without even realizing it, the importance of failure. And I want to break down kind of that story. I want to break it down and I want to make it applicable to us, right? Because from my daughter, what can we learn from that situation? And we have all been there, whether it would be something that we experienced new or maybe somebody we know personally that experienced something new. But I want to break down the sequence of events that happened. So let's go back to when my daughter, before the birthday party, she was a little bit hesitant at first, but she was still excited to go. She was excited to try something new. And if I relate that to us, whenever we're about to try something new, whether it be, maybe us starting a business, maybe us changing a career, maybe us pursuing a relationship, like we've talked about, any kind of change, we're excited. And this is before we take any action. We kind of go in there pumped, right? Like, yeah, I'm going to get it done. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that, right? We have like these mental talks with ourselves. So we're excited. But then if you remember, when she first put those skates on for the first time, when reality happened, when she felt the feeling of the movement with her feet, it was a new sensation for her. And to her, it was uncomfortable. And relating that to us, when we start something new, when we come across things that we've never experienced before, they are uncomfortable. We have that same feeling because it's the unknown territory, right? I relate back to also the fact that, remember when she had her friends passing by? And her friends, same age as her, or maybe other kids, passing by and skating by and dancing by in their skates, she began to compare herself. I think she began to feel frustrated as to why she wasn't like them or skated like them or had their abilities. And that goes back to us. Let's reflect back to that. So like when we are trying something new and we see others, we've talked about this before, when we see our friends or maybe somebody else doing the same thing that we're doing, we're comparing ourselves to them. And we have this sense of frustration because it's like, why are we not? Why am I not skating like them? Why am I not doing big things in my business like them, right? And let's talk about that first time we sat down. What did she want to do? She wanted to give up. She was upset. That's a lot of us, right? We want to give up. We don't like that uncomfortable feeling. We want to be like our friends that just passed us by. But we didn't give up, okay? And I don't think that you should give up either. And here's what we did next. How did we solve our problem? Well, the next thing we did is we asked for help. Okay, we asked for help. And I think that was important in our story. And I think a lot of times when we start these new ventures, it's okay to ask for help, because when we ask for help, we're trying different options. We're trying something that may work. We're brainstorming. We're getting feedback. We're kind of making it work, right? And in her case, the help that we asked for, in essence, helped her, right? So it helped her go through the next series of events. Was, she went through the motions of the activity. She gained momentum. She gained confidence, because at that point when she was gaining that balance and learning that, she would have never been able to achieve that had she not asked for help. So that second round, with her going through the motions of having the skates that helped her, it allowed her to gain the confidence to kind of replicate the fact that she was skating. The momentum, again, gave her confidence. The motions gave her confidence in the skating process. And I think that's a lot, that happens a lot to us. Once we start gaining momentum, we continue, the activity or the motion itself will continue to help us keep going. And here's the other thing she did, in reflecting in that story, one of the things that she did was she tried it without the walker. So she took off, she made some adjustments, right? So after you have some momentum in whatever it is that you're doing, again, going back to careers, to businesses, to relationships, to anything that you need to do new, you're going to make adjustments. So in her case, she took away the walker and she said, okay, let me make this adjustment and let me go by myself without it. And again, the same kind of repeats the same cycle. It's uncomfortable at first, but continuing to do it, it's just going to gain the most momentum and the confidence to continue without it. And then it ended, of course, with her being confident in skating, in her eyes, in her mind, in her heart, she was skating, and she was ready to go at it alone. And again, with us, we gain with the activity, with the momentum, with the comfortability, with taking out that fear, with gaining some confidence, we're ready to go at it alone. Or not per se go at it alone, but go at it, right? And then the outcome of everything, which I didn't share, is after the party, when I reflected back with her, one of the things that she said is, when I asked her, would you like to go skating again? She said yes, she was excited. And this time she actually said, yes, I want to come back again, but I want to bring my sister. I want to be able to teach others. And I think that's so important. Or what she taught me was, it's like, once we reach these plateaus, the next step is like, we're excited. We want to share. We want to bring others along with us. We want to be able to take what we learned and being able to teach them. Guys, what a powerful message my daughter helped me understand. She taught me over the past weekend the importance of failing. The importance of failing and why we have to fail. It's inevitable. We have to fail. That's part of growth. You cannot have any growth without failing first. And I think her initial reactions and her simple responses and her simple frustrations and her fear and everything, I related it to a lot of us and things that we're doing and how we are, what we're pursuing. I totally felt that I wanted to share this story with you guys because I myself learned so much from her through this experience. But I wanted to also share with you, there's a book out by an author, very famous author, someone who I truly respect. I've read multiple of his books. I've seen him speak in person as well, by John C. Maxwell. He's like a leadership expert, communication. The guy is just, his books, his voice, his speaking, everything I love about him. But in his book, Failing Forward, Turning Mistakes into Stepping Stones. So let me read you a small excerpt from this book. And he says, in life, the question is not if you will have problems, but how you are going to deal with your problems. If the possibility of failure were erased, what would you attempt to achieve? The essence of man is imperfection. Know that you're going to make mistakes. The fellow who never makes a mistake takes his orders from the one who does. Wake up and realize this. Failure is simply a price we pay to achieve success. Achievers are given multiple reasons to believe they are failures, but in spite of that, they persevere. The average for entrepreneurs is 3.8 failures before they can finally make it in business. When achievers fail, they see it as a momentary event, not a lifelong epidemic. Recognize that you will spend much of your life making mistakes. If you can take action and keep making mistakes, you gain experience. Wow. Thank you, John C. Maxwell. Isn't that true, right? What stood out to me is that the average entrepreneur makes 3.8 business failures, right, before they finally make it in business. And we hear and see this a lot. It took one business to learn, and you build upon that. And then you go to the next business and you build upon that. And you take those skills and everything that you learned and you build upon that. And honestly, if you round that up, it takes about 4 tries, right, for them to finally get a business. And it's just a matter of sticking to it and learning and compounding and building and adding and having that growth process come to life. All right, so let's talk about that a little bit. So here's what I'm saying is that I'm saying that we have to fail. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. We have to fail because failure is a critical part of growth and success. And just going back to my daughter as well, why we need to fail is because from failure, that is the only opportunity that we'll have to learn. We learn what doesn't work, and what that does is it helps us see things, because success, we can't learn from success. We can only learn from the how-tos or the ins and outs or the do's and the don'ts to get to the success. So failure reveals what doesn't work. It also helps us build resilience. Failure helps us build toughness and strength. And it helps build kind of like our momentum to building the ability to overcome and to problem solve, to maybe handle challenges that could come in the future, right? Failure also allows us to see breakthroughs with trial and error. We can get, creative of kind of innovative as to how we can adapt to all of the different types of changes. And then failure also helps us redefine what our goals are, because Maybe we start a certain way and then we end a different way, right? So for example, going back to my daughter, our goal was to help her skate. But then as we kind of went through that process, we realized we had to scale it back a little bit, and we actually just needed her to learn the balance of skating. And we also need to fail, because in the failing process, we build confidence, we build momentum, we can overcome failure, and it shows us that we're capable of growth, right? With my daughter going and trying a few more times, her confidence just continued to grow up. It created in her a sense of belief that her ability, that she was able to do it, right? So again, failure is inevitable. Failure is necessary, and it's a crucial and critical part of growth and success, guys. So here's my activity for the week. You have my permission to fail at something new. And I think we're going to make this fun. I want you to try something new, and I want you to think back to this process, think back to these steps, and then take what you learned from the failure and apply it to something that you are genuinely trying to succeed or grow in. So try something new. Maybe try a recipe that's been handed down to you that you're afraid to try, maybe from a family member, but you've been afraid to try it because you didn't want to make the mistake of it not coming out the way that your family member had made it. So try maybe a cooking recipe, try something new. Try, maybe cooking differently, like with using different ingredients. Say, hey, if you're not vegan, maybe try cooking a meal, that's made with only vegan ingredients, but something outside of your realm of something that you never do. So try, maybe that's an option. Maybe take up a new activity, like you go roller skating. If you've never been roller skating before, try that. Skateboarding, riding a bike, any kind of activity that'll get you out, that will require you to try and try again in order to fail forward, as John C. Maxwell said. So I'm just trying to think of some examples and think of what you've come up with. I'd love to hear what it is that you're failing at. You have my permission to fail, because in that failure process, I want you to take that feeling and that sentiment and apply it to what you're really striving for, because there's so much value and there's so much to learn from that process. I'm just trying to think of some other things. Maybe try a craft or an activity, maybe painting, maybe drawing, maybe crocheting, making jewelry. Whatever it is, try something different that you've been thinking of, that you're not an expert in, that you're probably going to fail at the first time. And I'm just trying to think of an example for me is, maybe a craft that I take up that I haven't done, or maybe going to your backyard and to your garden and maybe trying to start a garden. That's, if you're a first timer, that's something that you're going to fail at. Just think of a hobby, something that you like to do that is going to be a little bit challenging, but go ahead. You have my permission to fail. I want you to fail, because in that failure process, you can only get better, and you can only apply that to so many other things and so many aspects of your life. I just thought of a few other ways that you can fail. Maybe learn how to play an instrument, post on a new social media platform, surfing, skiing, snowboarding, jet skiing. Make some sourdough bread. I know that's a lot of trial and error, right? I have quite a few friends and family members that are into that right now, or people that I see on social media. Make some sourdough bread. That's a quick way to fail. I've heard you got to get kind of adjust and readapt to that. But take on sewing, sew something, create something, craft. Again, guys, just fail. You have my permission. Fail, fail, fail. This week is all about us failing. With that said, let me end by quoting John C. Maxwell, somebody who I see as a mentor, somebody who has so much life experience and depth to who he is and who he serves and what he's doing in his body of work. But let me leave you with these two quotes by John C. Maxwell. And he says, if you're not failing, you're probably not moving forward. He also says, fail early, fail often, but always fail forward. With that said, guys, thanks so much for joining me. I know this was a quick episode, but we got it done. We got it out. We failed forward. And I cannot wait for you to join me on the next one. Until next time. Love y'all.
You hear that clap? That's me cheering you on for completing another episode. I don't know about you, but man, that was quick. If you liked what you heard, hit the subscribe button. or share the episode with someone you think that might need a little spark. And help us grow by leaving a review. Remember, keep sparking that radiance from within. Until next time, shine on!